Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 3-for-1 Sky Fantasy Podcast from Fantasy Football Hub. Paul, how was your Sky weekend going so far?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. Had a bit of a rank rise. I thought I'd had a kind of mediocre week, but then I look back at my team and I've actually got a consistent array of points for what feels like possibly the first time this season. Again, not used any transfers yet, although I will be using one tonight. Yeah, pretty happy with how things have went.
Well done, mate. And we had some good feedback last week around your audio. It only took you 18 months to realise that you hadn't switched your mic on. And now it's taken you about another year for you to move the mic closer to your mouth. We're getting there. We're getting there, mate. It's only taken 2.5 years for you to...
I like at work, I like using paperback books for writing notes in. Like, I'm very much like a pencil guy. Like, I did maths at uni, so there was a big pile that was going out at work, so I've brought them home with me, and that's what it's propping up the mic just now. So it's all circumstantial.
Superb work, mate. Yeah, I had a quite a surprising small rank rise. I don't think I had anything kind of super duper. I was expecting a bit of a drop because normally when you just feel you've done kind of average, you tend to drop, don't you? Because people are using transfers around you. But I went up from, I think, 13.5k to 11.5. Didn't have Salah yesterday. I took him out a couple of weeks ago as part of my double Man City move, which was a bit of a pain. You did mention that Everton match as well. When I took him out, you were saying about, what about Everton? You know, he got his 10 points, fair enough, but he'll concede in the next 4, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, let's have a look at some of the points from the weekend. Top scorer Bernardo Silva, 14 points. Out of all this list, there's only about like 3 who are heavily owned. It was a strange old weekend, wasn't it?
What is it with Pascal Gross?
He's a legend, isn't he?
I'm still like every season he does this, and I'm still have no interest in buying him. It's he seems to like
does it every year, doesn't he? Unbelievable.
Yeah.
He scored 13 points, just 8.2 million. Andy Robertson got the goal, 12 points. Neto, 12 as well. I think it's his third or fourth assist of the season. He's looking pretty good. Sanchez came in clutch for owners.
That's the wrong Neto. You realise it's the Bournemouth goalie.
Oh, really? Off.
Yeah.
I thought he was the Wolves, and oh no, that's gonna come back to haunt me, innit? Robert Sanchez. Well, he got an assist anyway, didn't he? But
that's it.
Robert Sanchez, 11 pointer. I got him in my B team, so that was nice because he's been absolutely cack so far. So that was a nice 11 pointer there. Douglas Luiz on penalties, as we know, for Villa, 11 points. Just to call out some other ones, Doku for City, I thought looked good. Grealish is back now from injury, so I'm not sure how much he'll play going forward, obviously with the Champions League and stuff. But I think Pep has commented that he's looked very sharp, and he's been very surprised how quickly he settled in and how sharp he looked, which is obviously really, really good. Thiago Silva, 10-pointer, Salah, 10-pointer, Zinchenko, Trippier, 9-pointer, Colwill got shots bonus, not passing bonus, for a 9-pointer for owners as well. And Odsonne Edouard continues to score, to score week after week, and the fixtures are pretty good as well. What are you?
I was thinking that his fixtures are pretty good as well. So definitely one I'd say want to keep an eye on. But how long more do you want to keep an eye on him without making a move?
I think it's his next 3, isn't it? His next 3. He's home in 2 of his next 3, which are really good.
I'd argue he's the budget enabler. Well, he's 5th points overall, so it's not. I think it's an obvious thing to say, but it looks like it's going to be his place. And I know since Hodgson came in, I think there was only one game that he didn't start last season under Hodgson as well. So he's definitely caught my eye. Interested in the Chelsea players in there are interesting. I say who it's going to be a popular question seen coming in about who to take out, who to retain. From the Chelsea perspective, going into that single against Fulham, you'd argue that Thiago Silva is probably the best option going in there, and he'll be the least owned out of the majority of the Chelsea players anyway, and we'll touch on those in a bit. But yeah, nothing. No one else really stands out that's interesting me longer term from that list. As I say, last week it's been a very strange start to the season. I'm still not that much closer in defining what my optimal team will look like, albeit I've got a couple of loose transfer plans around goalkeeper and such like to move on as well. But yeah, nobody from that list. I don't like the Man City attacking midfielders like Doku and Grealish and Mahrez have always caused me more problems than they've done good in the past when I've picked them up. So
yeah, if you pick Mahrez this year, you'll definitely have problems. Alvarez, we've been asked some questions. I gotta be honest, I didn't realize how cheap he was. 8.6 million. He's looking good. We'll talk about him a bit as well. Welcome everyone in the chat. We've got a packed lobby, over 100 people. Great to have you all in. Bake97 is in. Windy as usual. Dave Power asks, where can you check the numbers of passes and tackles a player makes? Sofa Score, I think quite a few of us use. Paul Kendo, Kicking Up Dust, Bert Welsh, Lee Williams, Simon Jeffries, John A. Conley, Geo Boys, Gary Plant, Ollie Paul is in, Sam D. Taylor, Arwin Vo, who's having a cracking season. El Sarge says, interested to see who everyone is opting in for tonight's fixture. I'm sure we'll probably touch on that throughout the evening as well. Dave Baxter, Fantasy Legends, Martin Beasley is also in, Niall Murphy, Joe Robertson, Paul Fortune, Kaiser Sose, Flippin' Heck. We've got so many in. Dave Perrins says, join in live, I love you both. And Golden Goal, Paul is sounding crispy. That's what we want to hear, mate, in it as well. Great to have you all with us. Sussex Martel right at the end says hello.
I saved the hub money as well. I saved the hub money.
How's that?
Because I'm still using the same mic.
Still using the same mic. You're using bucks instead of a boom arm, a proper
Correct.
boom arm. I love that, mate. Brilliant. Webby's in as well, as is James Street. And everyone's asking about Chilwell, Jackson, Colwill, Enzo, Wanyi. What to do? Yeah, we'll touch on that now. Transfer usage, not much transfer change in the last week. Top 5,000 now 38.9, top 1,000 35.2, top 100 32.7, top 10 31. Not much change in the averages. Obviously we had the international break, so can't expect much there. But yeah, hopefully everyone listening in has got above those numbers. If not, you're probably in a little bit of trouble. Flipping, everyone's in tonight. Look at this. Mark Sheridan, Adam Byron, Tim Barry, everyone's in. And probably loads I've missed as well. Apologies to everyone. Yeah, those numbers at the moment are just not even worth kind of looking at, I suppose, at the transfer numbers at the moment.
Christmas time, I think.
As long as you're above. Fixture calendar. We're going to look at the evening fixture on now. We've been looking at this. It seems like for weeks and weeks. This always happens with the single game days, doesn't it? You know, you got all these massive fixtures, all these points everywhere, and it's always these crappy, boring games like Nottingham Forest home to Burnley, which just grabs everyone's attention, right? But
big swings in those games sometimes. Like
there are. Ben McCrum is in. Left me out, Fergie. I'll try not to take it personally. Apologies, Ben, and to everyone else I've missed out as well. Yeah, what are your first thoughts, mate, on this game before we look at the other fixtures?
So, the complexity around this is the fact that both teams have a second single that comes on. Because if it had been a single in isolation, I would argue that it'd be best to skip. And I know Awanyi's on an incredible goal run, like 7 games in a row, 9 goals in those 7 games. There is pros and cons for getting Awanyi in. We know that his whole tenure at Forest, he's not completed 90 minutes. He usually comes off about 75 minutes. They've just signed Origi as well. But when we're looking at consistency and trying to find patterns and data from the start of the season, when you've got players like Son, who everyone was in a rush to get, but has blanked in 4 of his 5 fixtures. You've got someone that's got consistency across the first 4 games. I think that he's the standout option, especially if you don't have Mbeumo or don't have thoughts on bringing Mbeumo in for when Forest play that second single against Brentford. Now, you've got the flip side on Burnley, who played that single against Luton as well. And some of us have kept the camber. So have
more luck
have
than piss in judgment, I know. But anyway,
what do you want from a 6.6 million midfielder who'd scored 3 goals and 220 appearances coming into this season?
Exactly.
I was just looking, tackles only was what I was looking for. But so a matrix of decision making.
Of this,
I'm in a position where I own the Canberra and don't own Embuemo, and therefore I think that Awoniyi is a standout option from Forest. So that'll be the move that I'm making. If I owned Embuemo and didn't own the Canberra, I would argue that a Burnley player like Bayer is probably the best option, and that's what I would do. Now, if I didn't own either, I think I would still pick Awoniyi based on my risk tolerance and more people going for Awoniyi in that position, and then skip the Luton Burnley game. So I think that covers off all the permutations of who has what and what coverage and what decisions I would make in each of those.
I like that, mate. Very good, and yeah, I think everyone will be in one of those boats. Just looking at Awoniyi's numbers of the last, kind of looking towards the end of last season. He doesn't play 90, but he does play 80 plus a lot. It's not like he's taken off after 60 minutes very often. If you look at his last few games, towards the end of last season, it was 81, 81, 79, 89. He missed game week 1 because he was injured, so he only had 40 minutes in that one, and he scored in that. And then it's 84, 81, and it was 65 last week. So that's the only one that's almost under 80 minutes in the last 8 game weeks, apart from when he's injured. So it definitely averages out. Well, I can see the average out about 80 minutes. So that's not that bad. It's not like he's going to be withdrawn really early. So that's just to answer that question for those who were thinking about that. I do agree. There's, you could make a case for, Elanga looked, really good last week. Gibbs White, potentially the keeper and stuff, but I just think this early in the season, I think Awoniyi is the standout option. Stay with the crowd. If you've got the permutations, like you said, if you have got Embuemo, for example, go with Bayer. I think I think is wise. What do you think Awoniyi's ownership is going to be above? In engaged managers, it's hard to say overall ownership.
Yeah, exactly,
we don't know, but in terms of the 1,000 odd people that are going to watch this podcast, what do you think Awoniyi's thing is going to be?
Yeah, like 60, 70%.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
I think so as well. Nicely summarised there, Paul. Just in terms of looking at some other fixtures and teams, obviously looking ahead now on Sunday. So Arsenal play on Sunday, as do Liverpool, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Brighton, and Spurs. So if you're looking to move on to any of those, Sunday could be a good time. I think I haven't exactly made my mind up, but I'm pretty tempted to move Onana onto Pope. I think that was my plan about 3 weeks ago. I think I might go ahead. So I've got the exact money in the bank to do that. Mind you, if I take out Jax instead of Colwill this season, which we'll talk about next, I'll have more money anyway. But Spurs we touched on. Any kind of other opportunities or kind of observations over the next few weeks, Paul, in terms of other fixtures?
Man City's got really poor fixtures.
They do
very
after Wolves,
soon.
yeah.
This factor into my Alvarez decision. So I'm not concerned about his game time. I'm more concerned about who I want longer term and using transfers and knowing that they've got a tough run. I spoke last week about Villa's upcoming run, and I'm really keen to get at least one of their assets in, perhaps two. And I've got Spurs coverage that I want to cover as well. And yeah, it just feels like the transfers in my mind is racking up, and I want a keeper move as well. So for those reasons is probably why I won't move to Alvarez. I think Dave Perrins asked a question about moving on Diaz this week. I suspect that he might be considering doing something like Diaz to Son or Maddison, which I think is something I had looked at as well and contemplated. I don't think it's necessarily a bad move. You do have that Wolves game the following week where you'd expect Diaz to pick up passing bonus as well. But I think it's getting that extra game in and then lining up to the game week 9 away to Fulham where there didn't seem like another natural hop-on point for Spurs players. I'm insinuating a lot here, and perhaps that's not the case. I don't dislike that move. I think that it's something I've considered as well. Perhaps taking Diaz out for that run. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do personally on it yet, but I don't think that's a terrible move.
And what are your very early thoughts on the Burnley and Luton single on Tuesday, 3rd of October? Does that play into any of your transfer decision making now at all, or just see how it comes in?
I've got Nakamba said, so
he'd be banned by then, wouldn't he? He'd be banned with Jackson.
He's only got 2 bookings. I'm not overly smug. I just like
I know you are.
No, like he's not going to pull up trees. Like, he got 5 points at the weekend, but I don't know. I didn't set my expectations as perhaps as high as perhaps some others did. I say I look like last season. Like the comparison was Paulinho from last season, but for me it was always completely different, because if you looked at Paulinho's record, I've went on record saying this a couple of times. Paulinho had scored 3 goals in 27 games the season before, 1 in 9, whereas Nakamba's got 3 in 200 odd appearances. So you maybe get 1 goal a season out of him, but it was always tackles, and he was averaging 3 anyway. So it was more outcome anger than like logical thinking of why you picked the player in the first place for me. So I wasn't too concerned about getting rid of him. But yeah, I'm going to hold on. I think if you were going for someone now, you would make the move onto Burnley to cover off, and I think if he didn't, I wouldn't touch it.
That's cool. Chelsea players, we've had a lot of questions around Colwill, Jackson, Chilwell, Enzo. Do we put him in the bin? So just for context, I think my plan was to bin Colwill tonight for a Wanyi. That was my plan. And go with Jackson for the captaincy game next week. But there's a game in between that. There's a couple of issues, obviously. Jackson looks bloody dreadful. And also he's on 4 bookings. 4 bookings in 5 games. You can actually get to the point where you save him for the captain and he banned after 6 matches. And Chilwell is another. You fair play to you, Paul. You said you didn't think he was going to be a great Sky option a few weeks ago. I think that's probably been proven right. And I wonder if your stock in Colwill has changed over the weekend, considering he played in place of Chilwell in terms of he looks kind of nailed to start, I suppose, is what I'm saying, whereas Chilwell isn't. So what's your thinking on Chelsea players?
Yeah, I'm the same as you in that I had lined up Colwill to a Wanyi tonight, and I'm now pretty sure I'm doing Jackson to a Wanyi as well. And it's not because I love Colwill, and I do I've weighed up the pros and cons of Colwill. I do know that there's a sentiment that now that he's competing directly with Chilwell, if Pochettino's not going to play Chilwell at left wing. Yeah. But then then I think Dave Perrin actually answered on the back of somebody else's thread on kind of on the questions bit as well, and it was something I was thinking. That's not to say that Colwill can't go into the middle and play in the middle where he's got a higher chance of passing anyway. So yeah, factoring all of that in, I'm considering making that move. If I'm going to, I'll keep Colwill and he'll be my only Chelsea asset. And if I come to that Chelsea Fulham game, I had a brief look. I don't think Fulham's fixtures are that bad from that point onwards. I would genuinely consider moving Onana to Leno and then running with Leno for a period of time afterwards. So yeah, something I've considered. Paulinho, he's a little bit expensive for what you get from him, and I wouldn't be expecting him to get passing bonus like he did at the weekend and in very many games for Fulham, but that could be an option. Probably not something I would do. The other one is if Colwell's benched, would I possibly use an extra transfer and bring in someone like Thiago Silva, who is going to get a 5 points minimum, 10 points for the transfer then, and that's assuming doesn't get a clean sheet. maybe, probably not. But I think, I think that I'm going to hold Colwill. I think in my order of getting rid of those three, it would be,
We Chilwell first, haven't it?
Colwill first. Yeah,
I think so. They're home to Villa next week as well, which I expect them to concede in that game.
Yeah, my argument
He's not getting any bonus
on,
either.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't think that fullbacks are good in the Sky game. Like, there's exceptions to that rule, of course, but it's the same with Trippier as well. I don't know. I think that I would rather Botman or Scher perhaps over Trippier if I was going to hold a Newcastle defensive asset, and they're both cheaper as well. But yeah, I think Chilwell, Jackson, Colwill would be my running order of dispendable first. Expendable, dispendable. I put out a tweet earlier on as well, just to cover this off. So if making a move tonight, who would you think of taking out? It's got over 200 votes now. 43% are on Jackson, 20% on Chilwell, 14% on Colwill, and 22% are either another option or aren't making any moves. Perhaps they've got someone lined up, or they're going to skip the game. So yeah, Jackson way out in front, ahead of Chilwell, but that's Jackson's ownership amongst engaged managers will be higher than Chilwell's, so factor that in.
I think another couple of factors as well is obviously the price. I know it's not like massive, but it's enough to, if you've got a future move planned. I'm not sure how much Chilwell is. He's like 8.5, is he, or something? So it's like there's like $1 million there, and there's also the 0.6 I think on Jackson, and a further one as well for why I'm taking Jackson out over Colwill now as well. Just a further point. I've got Estupinan and I've got 4 at the back. So if I'm left with it looks like I'm probably going to want to get rid of Estupinan soon. If I take out Colwill, that means I'm left with Estupinan and 3 at the back, which means then I can only go from Estupinan to another defender. Whereas obviously if I take out Jackson and leave 4 at the back, I can take Estupinan out, leaving Colwill, and I can go for Estupinan for a midfielder or an attacker then as well. So it's just another thing to...
What are you thinking about Estupinan? So, like, my assumption is that was a complete rest at the weekend because
definitely,
in at high altitude and long travels over the Atlantic. But we know that Brighton's fixtures aren't particularly great. That's not to say that they can't return in those games, because we know how good they are. What's your initial thoughts on kind of where you are with Estupinan?
My incredibly loose plan is they play on Sunday home to Bournemouth, so I'm keeping it for that, obviously, and then they play the following Saturday against Villa. Then after that, then I can't remember. I think I was looking at potentially a Villa player or something along those lines, or potentially even Alvarez at some point. I know City's fixtures stiffen up. I don't think it matters. It matters for City personally. I think Alvarez at 8.6. Like, how many times? I know he's no De Bruyne, right? But he's playing in that attacking role. He's on corners, he's on free kicks, direct, indirect, playing in behind Haaland. He's got 3 assists and a goal in his last 2 games. I appreciate the fixtures harden up, but they don't harden up as much as Brighton. So Brighton, after Villa, they go Liverpool and City, and then their nice fixtures start up again on Sunday the 29th. So in that period, a lot of some certain teams play like 4 times, for example. So that's my loose-ish plan. But like I say, it could change, right? But it's to move on after Villa.
I was really annoyed at Sky Game Week 12, where there's a good hop on Brighton point, and they play at 2 p.m. against Fulham, and they've moved the West Ham Everton game to 1 o'clock, so you can't see the lineups for the Brighton game, which is pretty frustrating, because I say it was a good hop on point for them.
We touched on Spurs last week. Heung-min Son was all the rage after his hat-trick. Started up front against Sheffield United. Lots of people brought him in all fantasy formats, and he largely disappointed. I think he had 0.18 XG, In FPL, it was interesting. He had 0.18 XG. Haaland had well over 2 XG. So Son captain has kind of got away with a bit there. Got like Son, Madison, and Bissouma. But what a difference a week can make.
Yeah, that was my exact point for asking you to put this slide together. It was like one, and this is the thing about the start of the season, because you're basing things like every game week's such a high percentage of the overall landscape of things. Now we're in game week 5. We're getting like every game that just passed still 1/20th of the season. That's 20%, 1/5 of the season that's played to date as well. So you learn so much. Like I mentioned earlier on, Son's blanked in 4 of the 5 games that he played this season. I know the argument was that he's playing up front and he'd been playing out wide before, but yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons why I don't like shoehorning players in and making moves that I'm not gaining any fixtures from. I'm not saying that I would never ever do that, and especially if there's a really good captaincy opportunity and it's going to be a high ownership position. But yeah, I'm now contemplating not bringing the Spurs player in until after the international break on that Monday night, when you've got to double up the Monday to the Friday. That's not to say if I didn't get an injury or something that I wouldn't make the move on then. And I'm still open to a few things next week. I'll see how things play out going into next Sunday's game. But yeah, I could well see myself without a Spurs player again, away to Luton, on Sky Game Week 9.
Same, I think. Yeah, they were insanely unlucky. The keeper made so many saves, but Son himself wasn't the one who was making a save. I think Madison had a couple of shots that they were flying in from everywhere, but they couldn't get the goal. And obviously Richarlison, he came back after last week, and basically winning the game. Right, he got him the 3 points. His spirits will be through the roof. You would guess he'd probably start next week. I would guess against Arsenal, maybe. They hard games anyway. Away to Arsenal, home to Liverpool, two of the hardest games of the season. So yeah, you can definitely leave it. Yeah, if there's an injury or something,
I think Maddison's a standout option, isn't he?
I think so. He's just not that great on bonus, is he, Maddison? You need. I know he got shots. I think he gets shots. You think he gets shots in a lot of games actually, but passing, tackles, he's not. He's not as good. But I think if the fixtures turn, when the fixtures turn, Maddison for me is the best one for sure. Yeah. And finally, Paul, have you solved your keeper conundrum? Because it's one that's been keeping you up at night, I know. Yeah.
I've got down to 3, but again, I'm still kind of loose plan. One is to move to Pope next week. So come off on Anna, I'll move to Pope next week. And my other 2 options are to move to Alisson for Liverpool's good run of fixtures. And then one who he's not pulled up trees so far this season, but I think their fortunes will turn around and he'll start keeping clean sheets, as Martinez for Villa. So they've got an incredible run post-international break. There's a couple of hop-on points. I don't know, Man United haven't been great recently, but they have got good fixtures. So I might keep on Anna for a bit longer, I think, and make the move to Martinez, whether that's in Sky Game Week 9 or I think Sky Game Week 11.
You got the captaincy option then.
More sense. Yeah.
Yeah, the captaincy against West Ham on the Sunday the 22nd. I put Vicario in there as well, just because 7 million, really cheap. Looks really good on bonus, makes lots of saves. After the 2 games that Spurs have now against Arsenal and Liverpool, Spurs go on a really good run of fixtures for 5 or 6 games. I think he's maybe an option as well.
I had considered Flecken again, but I watched the Newcastle game at the weekend and thought he was dreadful.
I missed it, but I heard that Wilson fouled him for a goal, but then it shouldn't have been a foul, should it? Just Flecken just flapping around everywhere, I think. So.
It was the one. It was the goal. It was disallowed.
Yeah, that one.
It was ridiculous. Should never, in my opinion, should never have been disallowed. And I think Brentford will continue to concede long distance shots, and therefore it does bode well for saves bonus. But I've just went right off him, having watched games this season.
Okay, we've touched on the game this evening, so we'll leave that one. Only two game days next weekend, Saturday and the Sunday. So on Saturday, 3 o'clock start, Man City against Forest. Haaland all over that. Get to see the lineup as well. Luton against Wolves. Canberra Reading come in there. Palace against Fulham. Brentford against Everton at 5:30. Burnley against United. This whole fixture list is very congested. I don't think I've ever. I say ever in a long time seen 10 fixtures between 3 o'clock on a Saturday and 4:30 on a Sunday. You don't see that very often, do you? Very congested. Haaland captain. Any kind of transfer thoughts or anything on that day? Not a lot, I think, is there?
Unless you've got someone that's injured or
like Martinelli potentially.
Yeah, if you've got Martinelli, I would move to Alvarez or something like that. If that opened up, or any other injuries or anything, like I move to Alvarez could be sensible, and you'll get to see the lineup if you were worried about a potential benching as well.
He's played. I was looking at this morning. Alvarez. Let me read out his last. So since game week 34 last season, he has played. He played 159 minutes in double game week 34. So that equates to about 80 in both games. He's then played 87, 90, 123 in another double. So that equates to over 60 in each. 90, 90, 90, 90, 89, and 90. So he's played as many, if not more, minutes than any Man City player in that period. Just having a quick look. I think it might actually be the most, maybe apart from Walker and potentially Edison, though Edison did have a complete rest in game week 37. So Walker and Alvarez are the one who's played the most in the last sort of 10 or 12 game weeks. Sunday the 24th, Liverpool against West Ham. 4 games at 2 o'clock. You don't see that very often either, do you? Liverpool, West Ham, Chelsea, Villa, Brighton, Bournemouth, Arsenal, Tottenham, and then Sheffield United, Newcastle. What is that? What is that 4:30 Super Sunday game when you got all those games above? What's that about? Is that what Ian was talking about last week, where they've just chucked in a rubbish Super Sunday 4:30 game? Salah captain on this day. Sorry, go on.
The game's moved because of the Thursday night Europe draw, though. I think, is that right?
Is that what it was? Is it?
I'm not the fixtures guy for sure, but I imagine it'll be something to do with that.
Salah captain, home to West Ham, or there's a few options here, isn't there?
No, not for me. I think that Salah's by far the standout option. I think West Ham. I like the way West Ham set up, and I like the way they've been playing this season, but you saw against Man City how many chances they gave up.
Haaland had 6 big chances. Crazy, isn't it?
But there is transfer opportunities that day. Like, say if you were wanting to move on to a Spurs player, that's the only natural hop on point of which you'll gain the extra fixture if you were doing so. It's just I can't see many players that you'd want to come off unless you were going to go against the Rodri's EO if you were coming off Rodri, perhaps to go to Son or something like that. But with the thought of Son going back to left wing rather than centre forward, now you will see the lineups for Spurs on that. It does take away a lot of his appeal. Maybe Maddison.
I find Onana really infuriating because he's they're quite poor at the moment, but their fixtures are so mixed. They've got a couple of difficult fixtures stuck into some really, really easy ones. So they're away to Burnley, home to Palace, then they're home to Brentford, away to Sheffield United, then they've got Man City, they've got Fulham, Luton, and Everton. They've got such an insane run of really good fixtures, but they just look dreadful, don't they? And they just don't look like keeping any clean sheets.
Well, it's Wan-Bissaka's out for.
I saw that out for
2 months, and he had been their best defender for a while as well.
It is. It's really infuriating, and just not sure. Like in that period, I think they have as many. Just go up to the Luton game. Yeah, they have the joint most fixtures out of anyone. They have a fixture more than Man City, Liverpool, Villa, Chelsea, Brighton as well. So they have the most fixtures on that Saturday. They finish off on Luton on the 11th of November. It's just so infuriating. You're just not sure what to do, but you just know that like Pope or someone's going to go on a rampage and keep 4 clean sheets in 6, and but yeah, straight one for sure. You can also obviously jump on Spurs players if you wanted to here, and Pope as well. Yeah. Questions. We had quite a lot of questions around Estepine and what to do if holding. So I touched on my like I say, I'm tending to play the game kind of a lot more casually more recently, just in terms of just take more of a look as the weeks progress rather than make this plan that in 3 weeks I'm going to do this, that and the other. So with Estepine at the moment, I'm definitely holding for Bournemouth. I'll probably hold him for Villa after that. And then I'll probably move him on after that. Like I say, there's Alvarez, there's Villa players as well. Or, just see it, if Newcastle look really good at the back, it tends to move to someone like Shah or Botman or something like that, if they pick the passing up. So I think with Estepine, I'd hold the next 2. And then either you can then hold through the next 2, but a lot of teams have a 4 for 2 in that period then that Brighton have got those tough fixtures. Let's have a quick look until Brighton play again. They're home to Fulham on Saturday the 29th, but in that period, Chelsea play 4 times, Brentford play 4 times, Burnley play 4 times as well, and lots of teams play 3 times. You could daisy chain on, go off and come back, but I don't know. I like Estepine, but yeah, there's some attractive ones to daisy chain him back in maybe. Alvarez, Paul, you've touched on him, and he's, I do agree that City's fixtures tighten, but you say they tighten. Away to Arsenal is going to be a tough game, right? But then they got Brighton and Man United, who are conceding a lot.
It's more that I've got other priority transfers that I want to make as well. Yeah. Like I'm factoring that into the decision, and there not being an optimal time, I don't think, for getting them in. It would have to be to gain a fixture. It would have to be the Arsenal game right before international break, and kind of goes against the style of moves that I like to make. So that's another reason why I probably won't do it.
If you go away to Arsenal, you're probably not going to be missing out on much, are you? Because you can't see City going and scoring 3 or 4 away to Arsenal. All right, you may get like an assist or something like that, but you're not going to be missing it massively. It is a tough one, you're right. And we also had some questions on Newcastle defense. What's your thought? I think they've got I want to say the second best XGC so far this season. I'll double check that, but what's your thoughts on that, Paul?
I think they're okay. Yeah, I think they're okay. They don't pick up bonus as regularly as I would like, even against some of the weaker opposition. So it's probably a reason why I'm not going there. I think Villa do okay for bonus, and I was looking at Pau Torres. He's 8.1, so cheaper than all the Newcastle defenders. There's good hop-on points for Villa as well, so I think I'd prefer that at this stage anyway.
Okay. Apologies, Newcastle are actually 4th for XGC. Arsenal are actually top now in the Premier League, above Man City, which is very, very rare, but they've only got an XGC of 3.5 in 5 games. Man City 3.8, Chelsea 5.3, and Newcastle 5.8. So they're 4th. Even Chelsea above them, which is quite.
Well, Chelsea's issue isn't defending, is it?
It's scoring goals. Dave Simple Goal. Thoughts on selling Diaz this weekend? This is what you touched on earlier. Ahead of City's bad fixture run. It's not for me. What do you think, Paul?
As I say, I think maybe there's a plan to get a Spurs asset in and get the extra game in, and I can see the logic behind that, and it's something I have looked at potentially myself. I probably won't do that, so I think I'm more siding with you, Fergi. But if it works for your team and gets the budget, opens up budget and plans, then I don't hate it. Yeah, just not for me.
Didn't he have shots bonus last weekend as well? Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah. And he also asked lots of budget options. Bissouma, Bayer, Van Heck, Edouard, Gilmore, Hamer, and even Marvelous Nakamba, who are both backing from that list to emerge as the favourite. Is it too risky to buy one now? What do you think about that?
I think Edward's probably the best budget player in the game just now. From that list, I probably prefer Basuma if I was picking up someone now. As I say, I don't think Nakamba, I think Nakamba will tick along okay. And at that price, and Bear, when he could be the best option versus Luton, because it's likely that they'll pick up passing bonus in that game. But there is mixed games around that for Burnley, so probably not for me. I'd say from that list, Basuma, if I was going overall, probably Edward just now.
Edward's fixtures as well. Look at this for Palace, right? So they've got, in the next three, they've got Fulham at home, which is obviously a really nice fixture. United away, which at the moment is a nice attacking fixture. And then Forest at home. They're then away to Newcastle after the break, which is obviously a tough one. Home to Spurs. But then they go Burnley, Everton, Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth as well. So if you had him, he's probably like a long-term hold at 7 million. He's probably good for shots bonus, even if he doesn't score and stuff. So I think Edouard could be a really good pick. I know it's like fifth for points, maybe a hindsight pick, but incredibly cheap at 7 million.
But they play on first game day every game week,
saw that,
which is pretty frustrating.
It is.
But again, it's like one of those ones that if you've got an injury, then making the move there frees up the budget for future moves where you'll gain the fixtures from. So something to be mindful of.
We've just had a couple as well. Martin Beasley, a couple of us around. Will Turner be Forest's number one long term or not? Assuming people are thinking of bringing in Turner this evening. I have no idea really. Have you got any thoughts on that, Paul?
I'd assume not. Like Benfica's like a decent team, and he was number one for the last 4 or 5 seasons for Benfica. What was interesting about it was the size of the fee of which they paid for him. He's a Greek international goalie. It was like less than 10 million, which in today's market isn't much at all, and he had just signed a new contract.
Yeah. So
I did think the fee was low, but he had been linked with big clubs in Europe in previous transfer windows. I would go on a limb to say that Turner won't be first choice long term, even if he does play today.
It's just an unnecessary risk anyway, isn't it? I just wouldn't bother.
Plus if the plans to use that extra budget, then where do you go at 6.1 million from there?
Agree. Just have a quick look to see if we've answered most of them. I think we've answered most of the questions. We've answered about Spurs. We've answered about Chelsea. For reasons unknown, to Mo or not to Mo, considering 2 transfers next Sunday on a mini structure to get Salah. Out of 10, how important is he for the medium term? I think he's probably fairly important at the moment. Captaincy Sunday, and I said last week potentially about taking him out, but he looks very dangerous at the moment, doesn't he? He looks very good. And the fixtures are superb. So they go West Ham, Tottenham, Brighton, Everton, Forest, Luton, Brentford, City, Fulham and Sheffield United. They go on and on all the way into December.
Yeah, and you can't get them in for that Everton game without a fixture gain as well. So you'd have to make a move for them at some point, which would either be this weekend to gain the fixtures or would be in game week 9 just before the international break against Brighton. If you're gaining 2 fixtures by doing it this week, as in you're taking 2 players out that play on the Saturday, or 2 players that play on the Sunday and getting him in as along with someone else, then I would suggest go for it. I
would do it. You don't want to be hiding behind the sofa every time they play for such a big player. And he's affordable this season. It's not like you've got Kane to constantly kind of juggle with. I don't know. He feels like the kind of player this season to get him in and keep him in. In my opinion, he could really hurt if you don't have him. That is it from us for this week. Thank you all so much for joining. those who watched and those who are going to listen back, your continued support is much, much appreciated. Really do appreciate it. And thank you, Paul. Where can people find you?
On Twitter at Paul McAnulty 1 MCANULTY.
And my handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergie. Make sure you drop us both a follow. Also at FFH_Sky. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave some comments. We'll be back next week previewing Sky Game Week 8. The very best of luck for this evening, whoever you pick. Hope you smash it. The very best of luck for Game Week 7. And goodbye for now.